Good morning everyone. Today I am going to be talking walking feet, in particular the Bernina walking feet. Now unfortunately I've got a vintage Bernina walking foot to show you and a not so vintage Bernina walking foot. This video is going to concentrate on servicing the walking foot, the vintage walking foot here, mainly because Bernina Jeff has got a YouTube video up with regards to servicing one of the newer walking feet, the dual sole foot. So the process for the slightly older walking feet, the ones that are nigh on impossible to find, it's similar, but there's some little differences. So we're going to go over that and just walk you through how to keep your walking foot running nicely. So lots of people get confused which walking foot is correct for the Bernina record style sewing machines, and a lot of people buy a generic version either of the foot I just showed you or the official Bernina foot, but they are not the correct foot for the vintage machines. This is the correct foot. These are rarer than hen's teeth. So this one I've just had come in. The up and down's moving okay. Not sure what we're getting. Yep, we've got forward and back, but that I can see that roller's kind of stiff. So we're going to take this walking foot apart and I'm going to show you where to oil it, where to clean it, to keep it working in tip-top condition. These are a serviceable item, so you want to look after it. And if you're not confident doing this, see your local dealer, or I will be starting a service where you can post it to me and I'll service it for you and send it back to you. So what you're going to need to service this foot, ideally you would want my number 6 oil. Okay, this is super fine oil. It's not the normal oil you would use to service your Bernina sewing machine with. Vintage machines, you'd be using the number 10 oil. So this is slightly finer. You're probably going to want some alcohol to help clean, and also a few Q-tips or cotton buds, as we call them in the UK. So the first thing we need to do is take the plastic cover off of the walking foot. We do this by unscrewing this screw. So I'll try and keep this in shot. It can be quite hard to tease this screw out, but you don't want to try and bend these over the screw, mainly because the chances are the ones you have are second hand and you don't know how they've been stored, so they could have been in direct sunlight and you would see this yellowing a bit more, the plastic, to be fair, if it had degraded due to sunlight. But it's quite old, so it becomes quite brittle. So I'm going to keep that screw. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use one of these motor drive belts from a Bernina, trying to think what it is now, a 125. We're going to use that to keep all our parts in. So we've got that case off. Now what we have is we need to take off this side of the foot and this side. So there's just the one screw on this side. Remember, left is loose. It may be that this walking foot has never been serviced, so these screws can be quite stiff. So you want to make sure you've got a good size screwdriver. This is a little Bernina screwdriver here, or something like this. That's going to sit in that slot nicely and just hold everything together. It's the trouble with these flat screws, you know, they can shear quite easily. So we've taken that screw off. And now we're going to go to the other side. Oh, it's tight. Just going to loosen those slightly. Not all the way, because they're attached through the foot. So as you can see now, this side's going to slide off nicely. Have some of the mechanism here. It's this pin that goes through the foot that jams and quite often stops the walking foot working. We can now take the sole of the foot out. And what I want to do is just need to undo that screw a tad more, and the whole lot. Nearly there. What you don't want to do is lose that tiny little screw like I've just dropped, but I will find it. So inside here we've got a couple of springs that move back and forth. That's the backwards and forward motion of the walking foot, and this lever works at up and down motion. And like I said, it's this pin, this lifts out. It's jammed in there quite tight, so I'm just going to give it a little wiggle. This should be quite free moving, but because this has never been serviced, it's quite hard to get this out of the foot. There we go. So that's the main sort of sticking point, if you like, of the foot. So have that lever. We don't really touch anything with regards to the springs here. We're just going to give that a nice little clean up and an oil. So what is slightly different with these vintage feet to the newer feet is these little rollers come off. So they just slide off. And what we want to do is clean it and oil the shaft. Look, you can see this lint here that's on this. So we want to take that away, get our Q-tip. I'm just going to clean off. Try and keep that in shot. Clean off any residue. Stubborn bit of lint there. I'm going to gently clean this. Clean the tops of the foot here. Use alcohol for so many applications when cleaning sewing machines and parts. We've got that foot relatively clean. Give that arm one last clean over. Okay. Now what we're going to want to do is start reassembling the foot. In fact, before I do that, I'll quickly give this spindle a good clean too, just to make sure. Okay, I'm happy with that. You don't really need to worry too much about drying anything off. The alcohol's just evaporating as we speak. So now we're going to get our precision tip oiler, and we start with this side. So we're just going to put let me just move that out the way. Put a drop of oil in there. and we're also going to put a drop of oil on our spindle. We can push this back in place, move this forward. We have that in the correct position. The next thing we want to do is put our little rollers back on. So again, I'm just going to put a drop of oil on each one of these, just to make sure that they're going to rotate nicely on the shafts. You can't get these the wrong way around because one side of the shaft's bigger than the other. So that just sits on there. And this one sits on here. So now we have our rollers. Rollers moving backwards and forwards with the foot. On the opposite side, you could take this C-clip off and remove that whole section. I probably wouldn't recommend you do that at home, not unless you've got the right tools to do so. So we're just going to put a little drop of oil on there, and we've got a couple of other bits that move. So we also have that little spindle there, and like I say, this is a really fine oil, so that's gonna just be taken in, and I'm just going to dab off the excess with the dry end of a Q-tip. Okay, so reassembly of the walking foot. It's quite hard to get this wrong. So you want to take the long black screw and your metal side of the foot. I'm going to orientate that the correct way. Oh, I've got to be careful now because these little rollers, now they're lubricated, they tend to want to slide. Whereas before they were kind of stuck and not rotating. Now they're in a decent condition. They want to move around a bit. So let me just make sure I've got hold of those. Could do with an extra pair of hands sometimes. So you can tell which way this goes on because the screw holes are countersunk. So it's quite obvious that the screws are going to sit that way round. So we're going to line this up, and if you remember, the long black screw was at the back of the foot, so just going to line up that hole with the long black screw. So that kind of holds most of it together. So I'm just cautious of not dropping those rollers now. So I'm going to rotate the foot over, and you can see that screw's now popping up here. Take the other side of the foot, and we're going to line those up. I'm going to rotate it again. Grab my little screwdriver, and I'm not going to fully tighten this down, but just enough to hold the two sides together. Clockwise is tightening up. Okay, so it's not locked in tight, but it's tight enough. So that's all looking good. Just noticed a little bit of fluff I missed there, so just ease that off. Okay, so now we can put this screw at the front. Be really careful with these little screws that you don't drop them, because they are very hard to see. I was very lucky with the one I dropped. So I'm just tightening this one up like so. Again, I haven't locked it all the way in, but it's nice and tight. And then we've got this screw on the right hand side. So at this point, just have a look at the sole of the foot, and you might want to just get another bit of alcohol and just give it a clean on the bits that you can't ordinarily get to. So that's nice and clean. And now the reason we haven't fully tightened everything up is we have to manipulate this into place. So we get one side in first. It's going to be a little bit tricky. So that's that side lined up. So we need to line this up with the rollers. So that's that side lined up. That's that side lined up. So that's good. We're going to take the last screw. A way to make sure that you don't cross thread screws is you can back them off in the opposite direction and you just feel them kind of click. So that's feeling stiff. So if I back it up and just feel the screw jump, then I know it won't cross thread when I tighten it. So now we can fully tighten down these other screws, like so. Check the up and down movements working, which it is. Check our forward and backwards movement, which is all good. So now we're happy with that. We can go on and put the casing on. So it's just the reverse of what we did initially. Make sure that's pushed on nicely. And then finally, the last screw. And again, just check forward and up and down is working. Forward and back's working. That's moving lovely. And that is your walking foot serviced. When you go to use it for the first time, don't use your best fabric. Just use a bit of scrap. You might have some of that oil work its way out, so have a little run with it. Anyway, thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, please.